paper, colored pencils, and a pencil to write with. Okay, so the other day we started out on the front of our paper, on the top part of the paper, right? And we did a Venn diagram, and we did a little bit of review between the the plant cell and the animal cell, and the things that the plant cell and animal cell have in common, which are quite a few things. And then what's found only in the plant cell and what's found only in the animal cell, right? So we took that information and we brought it to the back, and on the back, we started to create our photosynthesis and cellular respiration diagram. Now, photosynthesis is on the left-hand side. We did not yet get to cellular respiration over here, but here's photosynthesis. So let's just review what happens for photosynthesis. There are 3 things that are necessary for photosynthesis to take place. And you don't have to do it in private. You can do it to the whole class in the chat. Send it to the whole class in the chat. What are the 3 things that are necessary for photosynthesis to take place? Try again, Drew. Yes, Emmy. Good, Abraham. You should all be in there. The reason why I said try again, Drew, is because for photosynthesis to take place, carbon dioxide needs to be present, right? So the plant itself, and it happens in the leaves. Photosynthesis happens, yes, Lexi, photosynthesis happens in the leaves. What happens is that the light energy, whether it's sunlight or light energy, because we can create our own light energy, water, and carbon dioxide go into the plant itself. Now, I gave a little review in module 10 about the different parts of the plant, and I talked about the root system of the plant, right? The root system is going to bring up the water and the nutrients from the soil into the plant, and the sunlight and the carbon dioxide, mainly the carbon dioxide, is controlled by these tiny little openings in the leaf itself. So when you look at a leaf, you're like, oh, it's flat, right? Actually, around on the leaf, on the edges of the leaf, is something called the stomata. And the stomata actually opens and closes like a little mouth would be for breathing. So if you don't have the word written down, or if you didn't write it down while the videos were playing, we're going to add next to the leaf, and I'll show you in a second, the word stomata. And I'll type the word in the chat so you spell it correctly. Okay, so I just attached it over here to my leaf, right? And it says that the stomata is there. The stomata, when the stomata opens, it allows the carbon dioxide to come into the leaf of the plant, which is necessary for photosynthesis, right? And in the leaf itself are the chloroplasts. So we talked about the chloroplasts, which are found in the cell of the plant, and it's in the leaf. The chloroplasts contain chlorophyll. What are you having trouble with, Braden?
The cat just sat down right on my paper in front of me and is not letting me work.
You just have to move the cat.
I don't want it. That's mean.
Okay, so the chloroplast contains a green pigment called chlorophyll, And if you did not write this definition down, I'll put it back in the chat for everyone. The chlorophyll that's in the chloroplasts, chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which is a green pigment that allows for photosynthesis to occur, and it also gives the plant the green color. If you don't know what pigment is, anything that has pigment, like skin has pigment to it, right? And if you look at everyone, you'll notice that you will not find anybody with the same color skin. The pigment or pigmentation is different. Some people have darker pigment or more pigment to their skin, and some people have lighter pigment, like me. Sometimes, you know, if I look very pale in the winter time because I don't have that much pigment in my skin. In the summertime, if I'm out in the sun, the color changes of my skin, but it will go back to its usual color, right? Pigmentation. You can have pigment of the hair. Ben now has blue in his hair, right? He's changed the color, the pigmentation of his hair, right? So that's what chlorophyll does. Yes, I understand, Tegan. So we have now the sunlight or light energy. We have our water, which we indicated as rain on our drawing. We have our plant, but we did not put anything for CO2, which is carbon dioxide. So you guys are going to be amazed by my drawing abilities. I have just, in 2 seconds, created a bird, right? Can you see my birdie? Okay, so the bird, I mean, if you can draw a human, go ahead. If you can draw another animal, please feel free to do so. I can't draw, but this is to the best of my ability. So create something that gives off carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis to take place. So once we have, you can draw your picture. And if you're proud of your picture, please feel free to share it with me, because I absolutely cannot draw, and I'm always amazed by people that can. My sister is the artist of the family, and my daughter has been gifted that talent as well. Not me. But I do the best with what I have, right? And my bird is pretty good. Okay, so carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight energy goes into the plant. And on the other side of the paper, on the bottom, we wrote the formula that it takes 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules plus light energy. This whole process, or this whole formula on the top that we just wrote down the other day, is photosynthesis, right? So I would write up there photosynthesis, because that's the first part of the equation. So we have photosynthesis. Now we're going to do the back end of the equation. What happens when we have photosynthesis? Where do all of those molecules go? Because we said that matter is never lost or destroyed, right? Do you remember that from back a couple of months ago? Matter does not just disappear into thin air. Matter is always used, which means those elements that are part of that equation have to go somewhere, right? Because they're never lost. So on the other, at the end of the equation, I'd like you to write that yield sign. It's just an arrow. So when all of these things come together, it's going to make something else, right? And that arrow indicates that something else is going to be made by those elements that have been used through the process of photosynthesis. Okay, we'll draw it so it could be easier to see. I think drawing I like building models and drawing. It makes it easier for me to see what's going on. That's my way of learning. Some of you, it may be helpful for. So we already said that 6 CO2 molecules, 6 carbon dioxide molecules, and 6 water molecules go into photosynthesis. After photosynthesis takes place in that plant, it creates a couple of things. One thing that it creates, and you guys had to play a game. Well, I don't know if you played the game yet. Some of you did play the game. It creates actually 3 things after the process is done. Give me one thing that it creates, Braden. You had your hand up. Yeah.
One thing that it creates is it uses the carbon dioxide, water, and light energy to make glucose to use as food and energy.
Absolutely. So glucose
is a type of sugar, correct?
It is the simplest form of sugar that there is. Okay, so that sugar, anytime you hear the words that end in OSE, glucose, fructose, lactose, galactose, maltose, anytime you see those in an ingredient list, anything that ends in OSE, it's going to indicate that it is a sugar. Okay, there are some sugars that are simple, there are some sugars that are more complex. Lactose, I know you may know people that are lactose intolerant, or maybe you're lactose intolerant. When somebody is lactose intolerant, they have a hard time digesting lactose, which is a form of sugar that's found in the milk. And what makes lactose, now lactose is a complex sugar, galactose and maltose come together and it makes lactose. So people that have a hard time digesting the lactose might end up getting some kind of irritable bowel syndrome, maybe some problems with having some gas, and just problems digesting, stomach cramps, things like that in the digestive system, right? So anytime you look at, like, if you were to grab something from your kitchen cabinets, anybody that's close to their kitchen cabinet, go ahead, go to your kitchen cabinet and just grab something out of it. I don't care what it is that you're grabbing. Maybe you grab, oh, look at that. Perfect, Emmy. They're great. Okay, hang on to that for a second. Chase went to go get something. I don't know. I know a lot of people have their cameras off, so I can't see if they're going to their kitchen to get something or not. Oh, good. Drew, what is that? Is it, oh, it's a sausage? Yeah. Oh, it's beef. Okay. Oh, I love wheat thins. Okay. So take a look at your packages, and on the back of the package, or somewhere on the package, Drew, I don't know where it is on yours because it's a tube, you're going to have an ingredients list, right? So on that ingredients list, take a look at the ingredients. Now, Frosted Flakes, the word frosted is in there, so you know it's got to have sugar, right? So look at the first, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 ingredients. And if you see anything that says high fructose corn syrup, anything that ends in an OSE or the word sugar, it's there in what you are eating. Now, if you look at your butter knife.
I'm trying to make a joke because you said grab anything from your kitchen.
Well, this is true. Yes, I meant food wise. Yes. What did
So,
you
like
find
the
on
butter.
yours, Emmy?
Mine says milled corn, sugar, malt flavor, and salt.
So sugar's like the second or third thing on the list, which means that if it's at the front of the ingredients list, there's more of it in there than what's at the back of the ingredients list. So it's, and if you look at the nutritional value on the side of the box, it'll say carbohydrates, and it'll tell you if it's got sugars in it and how many grams of sugars. It indicates it right there for you. What do you have on yours, Chase? Hang on a second, Emmy. What do you have on yours, Chase?
Regular sugar.
It says regular sugar. Where is it in your ingredients list?
Second.
Yeah. So that means that it has a lot of sugar in it. See, that's why I like wheat thins. If you have, where did Drew go with his beef? I'm curious to know if they add sugar into that beef. Yours is number 4, Makai. I don't know where Drew went with his beef. But realize that if it does say anything like fructose is a natural sugar that you'll find in fruits, and everybody says, oh, eating fruit is really good for you. And yes, eating fruit is good for you. However, there could be too much of it, even though it's a natural food. Oh, yep. See, you have 1 gram of sugar in yours, Drew. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder if they use it as a preservative for the beef. Probably. Anything that you look at, like Chase has his, they do have a natural sugar, Maria. That natural sugar is fructose. Fructose is okay, but you can have too much of a sugar in your diet. So I don't know if you guys learned the nutritionally about food other than the food guide pyramid. Did you guys learn about the food guide pyramid? Okay, so the food guide pyramid, Makai, is you can draw an actual pyramid, and on the bottom it says that you should have 6 to 11 grains a day. And then as you go up, you get smaller servings of whatever it is that you're supposed to eat. That's changed. Now they have something that's called My Plate, right? So think of a dinner plate, right? And the My Plate, and I used to have them for my children, the My Plate has colored sections on it. And the largest section for food on the My Plate diet, and it's not a diet, what you eat is your own diet. I'm not putting you on a diet. I'm just saying what everybody eats is a diet. So if you look at that plate, My Plate, it has the largest section. Oh, cool, Drew. Okay, do you remember what the largest section is? He said his elementary school had that in the front of the cafeteria. Veggies. Yes, Lexi. Yes, Drew. No, Emmy. It used to be that way. It used to be that grains and carbohydrates were at the bottom of the base of the pyramid, and you were supposed to have 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates a day, right? And they meant complex carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are sugar. That's all they are. Now you can have simple sugars like your glucose, or you can have complex sugars like pasta, right? Pasta is a complex carbohydrate, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But vegetables, like 2/3 of your plate should be vegetables. And then you have some fruits in there, and then a small portion of protein, like a 4-ounce or like the size of a deck of cards piece of meat, and then very little dairy, right? Because everything contains sugar in it, even though it's natural and it comes from the earth. If we're not eating processed foods, like those wheat thins are processed, Chase, your frosted flakes are processed, Emmy. Whatever it is that's packaged had to be processed in some sort of way. Now, the more packages you have within packages means the more processed the food is. Okay. So you have a plastic bag inside a box. It's a pretty processed food, right? If you were to go back and look at that ingredients list, you're going to see things on it and you're going to not even know how to pronounce it. Yes, Braden. Yes. And absolutely. Yes. So if you guys read the chat about what Braden said, that's absolutely true. But if you go back and look at that ingredients list of the wheat thins or the frosted flakes, you're going to see some things in there and you might be able to sound them out or pronounce them, but it's not something that happens naturally. It's something that happens in a laboratory, right? So that's a processed food. Anytime that a laboratory has been involved in it or it's been pre-packaged, it's some kind of processed food. Bananas come in their own package, right? The banana peel. Mangoes come in their own package. That's natural. Those are healthy. Broccoli, carrots, you pull those right from the ground and you can eat them. Yeah. Less than a gram of sugar, right, Maria? Isn't that what they say about Tic Tacs? Less than 1 gram of sugar or something. Yes, the apple skin. Now, I mean, the skin of an apple is really good for you because it is high in fiber. So it's very good for your digestive system. But you have to be careful when you're eating the skin of something as far as how has it been grown? Is it organically grown or does it have pesticides on it? And there's different soaps that you could buy to clean your fruits and vegetables to get the pesticides off of it. But yes, it has its own package. Kiwi, pineapple, any type of fruit or vegetable that you think of comes in its own package, right? It's not processed. Okay, so getting back to cellular respiration, glucose is one thing that is made when photosynthesis takes place. Glucose has a formula, and the formula for glucose, I'll type it in the chat, and I'm not using subscripts, but C6H12O6 is glucose. Now I'll show you on my drawing that I wrote it in here on my arrow. It creates C6H12O6. Remember to do the subscripts. Those numbers go below the line. C6H12O6 is one molecule. The reason why I know that it's one molecule is because there's no number preceding C6H12O6. That is one molecule of glucose. Besides glucose being made during photosynthesis, what do you guys know that's made that we need to take in to survive? Yes, Chase, oxygen. Now you'll notice C6H12O6 does not have a number preceding it, which you're to assume that it's 1 if there's no number there. But when I write oxygen, there are 6 molecules of O2. So photosynthesis creates 1 molecule of glucose and 6 molecules of oxygen. Now, the reason why I drew the arrows the way that I did is because if you look at this, the whole process is cyclical. In order to have photosynthesis, yes, in order to have photosynthesis, you must have cellular respiration. And in order to have cellular respiration, you must have photosynthesis. Now, there's one other thing that's created with cellular respiration, because we've taken our glucose molecules, we've taken our oxygen, our carbon dioxide, and our water, but what happened to the sunlight? Where'd that energy go, right? It has to be created into something else. And yes, Chase, it's created into another form of energy called ATP. ATP, or the process for the conversion happens inside one of the organelles. Yeah, the first one is sugar. So the process of cellular respiration takes place in one of the organelles in the plant or animal cell. Does anybody know what that organelle is? It starts out taking place in the cytoplasm, but this organelle is found in the cytoplasm. There's one organelle in which the conversion or the use of glucose takes place, the use of glucose and oxygen in the organelle. Some of you have done module 10, and you know this. Where does energy come from when we're talking about energy from a cell, from an animal cell? In the mighty, yes, Emmy, in the mighty mitochondria. So what I am doing right now is I am drawing next to the arrow of photosynthesis, of the products of photosynthesis. The products of photosynthesis are glucose and oxygen. I am drawing next to that a picture of a mitochondria. Okay, and I'd like you to draw that. This is what you would see if you were to look up a picture of a mitochondria. And I am going to write mitochondria. So you see that the oxygen and the glucose is going into that mitochondria. Now the mitochondria is the organelle in the cell that uses the glucose and uses the oxygen. And when that mitochondria uses the glucose and uses the oxygen, Chase says that that sunlight energy and the other molecules form to create something called ATP. ATP, and I'll show you in a second. Let me get my yellow pencil. It's used in the mitochondria, and then Shazam, what's created is ATP. ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. Do you need to know how to spell adenosine triphosphate? No. But what you do need to know is that if you see it, the words adenosine triphosphate, and I'll write it down in the chat in a minute. You'll see when I write it in the chat how they get the abbreviation ATP. Adenosine triphosphate. A, adenosine, tri-T, phosphate, P. So now we have here the whole process of photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And it is cyclical, just like you would think of the water cycle, right? It's cyclical. The rock cycle is cyclical. Photosynthesis and cellular respiration are cyclical. You could not have one without the other. One relies on the other's products to happen. Okay, my arm's getting tired. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to put your drawings in there. but let me know if you have any questions about the process. Now, Abraham started today's lesson and he's saying, wow, that's pretty amazing how that happens. Science is so amazing, Abraham. How certain things happen. Absolutely. There are things that we don't even think about that are happening around us all the time, every day. I was just talking to my daughter about this the other day. She said to me something about not even thinking about it happening. Maybe it was photosynthesis. I don't remember what we were talking about, but I said, just even think about it. You don't think about breathing. It just happens. You don't think about digesting your breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. It just happens. These things are happening naturally inside of you. Photosynthesis is taking place all around you, creating the oxygen that you need. It's amazing how science actually works, how we get through life because of our environment around us and science. So let me know when you guys are good in the chat, so I know that I can move on, because we're going to flip back over to the other side of the paper. Let me know if you need to see the picture again. Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Lexi. Good, Emmy. Hi, Makai. Does that mean you're finished? Yes, Maria. Thank you, Em. Okay, good. Here you go, Maria. And you should write the word glucose there, because you should be able to, if you see it, C6H12O6, know automatically right away that that's glucose. Thank you, Naima. Thank you, Danny. You're welcome, honey. I didn't see it, Braden. Sorry, I'm too busy teaching. Okay, so now we're on the front of the paper where we wrote the photosynthesis equation down, right? And you put a yield sign. When photosynthesis takes place, it's going to create something. What does it create? We said on the front that it creates 6 oxygen molecules plus C6H12O6 plus ATP. And that bottom one, the top one we said is photosynthesis. The bottom one we know as cellular respiration. Right? So you can label that one cellular respiration. Okay, now here's my time to blow your mind. And I don't know if it's going to blow your mind, but I think it kind of puts some things into perspective, because you're just taking, I'm just taking for granted that you're believing me that matter is never lost, nor is it destroyed, right? I said that matter can change into something else, but it's never lost or destroyed. And it's like you see these things happening. Well, you don't really see them happening, but you experience them happening, and you don't really realize where those elements or those molecules are going. So there's something that we're going to talk about briefly that you're going to learn about more in high school. And that's balancing equations, or noticing that matter never is lost, nor is it destroyed. It can change, right? So when we were talking about chemistry, we were talking about physical changes and chemical changes, right? And if I take a piece of paper and I set it on fire, I am changing the chemical composition of that paper. It's no longer paper, it turns into ash. But that ash does not equate to the same amount of paper, right? You have just a little bit of ash from that big piece of paper. Where did the rest of the paper go? That matter was changed and it turned into gas form and it was released into the atmosphere, right? So if I take photosynthesis, which is 6 CO2 molecules plus 6 H2O molecules plus sunlight energy. I'm going to tell you that we're going to be able to count all of those molecules to see how many we have, okay? Now, if I look at the number 6O2, where I show that I have 6 oxygen molecules. Earlier, I said, you know, with glucose, you assume that the number 1 is there. You only have 1 glucose molecule. With photosynthesis, it says 6 CO2. So that means that there are 6 carbon dioxide molecules. So what I could do is I could write CO2 6 times. Like this. So now it's showing me that, yes, I have 6 carbon dioxide molecules, yes? So when I have 6 CO2 molecules, how many carbon atoms do I have? I have 6 of them, right? Because you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I have 6 carbon atoms, how many how many oxygen atoms do I have? Well, you count this number, the subscript, and this is why I said it's very important to write a subscript. Subscripts are different than telling you how many molecules there are. They tell you how many atoms there are. So there's 2 oxygen, 2 oxygen, 2 oxygen, all the way down, which means that we have 12 oxygen. So with photosynthesis, in 6 CO2s, that means we have 6 carbons and 12 oxygen atoms. Right? So far, so good. Now let's look at H2O. I have 6 H2Os. So I can write it 6 times. 6 H2O, 6 H, I can write it 6 times. H2O, 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 blah, 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 right? Or if you go back to your math skills, yes, Braden. If you go back to your math skills, what you could do is you could take the number that tells you how many molecules there are, and you can multiply it by the subscript. So if I tell you 6 H2O, 6 times 2 is 12. So I have 12 hydrogen atoms. 6 times 1 for oxygen is 6 oxygen atoms. So I have I have 12 hydrogen and I have 6 oxygen. So now we show that we said this earlier, we just went through this, right? There are 6 carbon atoms, 12 oxygen atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, 6 oxygen atoms. I can take my oxygens and add these 2 numbers together because oxygen is the same as oxygen, right? So all together with photosynthesis, I have 12 hydrogen, 6 carbon, and 18 oxygen. So far, so good. Is this making sense to you guys? Let me know in the chat if it's making sense to you, how to figure out how many atoms are in each molecule. I want to hear from everybody. Right now, I only think there are like 8 kids present in my class listening to me. I'm going to do another one, Maria, so you're going to see it because we have to do cellular respiration. Thank you. Okay, so that's photosynthesis. Now, I was saying to you that matter is never lost or destroyed. So when photosynthesis takes place, it's going to yield something. What's going to happen to these molecules? They're still going to be present in the other equation, but they're different. So if we look at cellular respiration or photosynthesis, photosynthesis creates 6 oxygen molecules, right? The reactants for cellular respiration are the products of photosynthesis. So it creates 6 oxygen molecules plus C6, H12O6, and ATP. If I'm taking this equation right here, oxygen molecules, I have 6 oxygen molecules. So I can write O2, 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 right? Because that's showing me that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 molecules of oxygen, and count those up, right? Or I could take this number 6 and multiply the subscript, giving me 12. So far, so did you get that one, Maria? Did that make sense? Because I think it's molecules and subscripts that get people confused. And with this equation, it's easy just to write everything out to show you. If I have 6 molecules, it's saying I have 6. So that's 1 O2, 2 O2, 3 O2, 4 O2, 5 O2, 6 O2, right? So that's how many oxygens I have in the first part of the equation. I have 12 oxygens. Well, the next part of the equation is really easy because the number of molecules is 1. There's no number beside C6H12O6, so you assume that there's only 1 molecule. If I had 5 molecules, it would say 5 C6H12O6. But because I only have 1 molecule, there's no number there. So this is saying that I have 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens, right? Now I can take my oxygens and add them together again. And 12 and 6 is 18. So it already says I have 12 hydrogens, 6 carbons, and then 18 oxygens. Photosynthesis has 12 hydrogens, 6 carbons, 18 oxygens, and cellular respiration has 12 hydrogens, 6 carbons, and 18 oxygens. And the sunlight energy is ATP. So that is what we call a balanced equation. And it's also showing you that the matter is different in photosynthesis than it is in cellular respiration, but matter is never lost or destroyed. It can change. In the case of photosynthesis, it changes into glucose and oxygen, right? Does that kind of make sense to you guys when you see it that way? Good, 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 good. All right, well, if you guys need to revisit this, like I said, it was